I've seen all of the other most popular theories about what the numbers actually mean. I could be wrong. My entire channel, everything on it, I could be wrong. However, based off of what I found, the patterns I've recognized in the show, different things that have happened that actually do align with these dates, I'm going to tell you right now that I believe that this theory is probably one of the strongest theories you might watch on YouTube. So like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, sit back and grab a snack, and let's talk about what the numbers in from might actually mean. The numbers in from tell a story. But what the numbers really mean may begin with the number everyone missed, 1976. Most people missed this, but there's a date on Henry's license plate that says 1976 GS. Now, the moment I saw this, it was bothering me because I couldn't figure out why they would go through the effort of putting that date on a license plate and what it could possibly mean. And then it clicked for me. Everyone in the town arrived by vehicle, by a car. Therefore, it is plausible to believe that when Miranda first went missing, and so did her children, Victor and Eloise, Henry had to buy a new car. Therefore, the date of 1976 being on the license plate of Henry's car could confirm that Miranda, Victor, and Eloise all went into from during the year of 1976. And in 1978 is when the massacre first happened, when everyone else except Victor in the town died. This is then backed up by the fact that on the map that majority of people think is Miranda's map that she was creating of Fromville and mapping out the entirety of Fromville, on the bottom left corner where it says 1978, I believe that this was Miranda keeping tabs of the days and the weeks and the months leading up to the massacre. And she writes 1978 on the bottom because she was counting the days and the months to know what year it was. Across the entire map, there are dates that are the exact same dates that are in the lighthouse. And I believe that when we get a more legible shot of this map where you can actually read what is on it, more and more of the dates that we know of already from the lighthouse will be on this map. One more detail that everyone missed, even I did the first time, that we have to establish before we get into my theory. The numbers in the tree are not the same numbers. In this still shot of that we get of Jade explaining the numbers in the tree, you can kind of start to see what numbers were in the tree. Only number in the tree that aligns with the numbers in the lighthouse is 1864. So that opens up an entire can of worms on why the only year in the tree full of numbers would be 1864. What do the rest of the numbers in the tree mean? They're completely different and completely separate from the numbers in the lighthouse. The numbers in the tree and the numbers from the Rendez-Move website will be completely separate videos from me, as well as the number 47 and its relevance to the show. So now that I've established that in this video so that you guys can also separate those things for yourself, let's get back to what this video is about, which is the numbers in the lighthouse, the dates theory, and how these numbers tell a story. I call this theory the landmark theory, that every date in the lighthouse corresponds with a different cycle in the from cycle, which corresponds with a different landmark throughout from, which then corresponds with a different monster for every cycle and for every landmark within Fromville. People are forgetting that the town is only a part of the entirety of the From Forest, and other things and places throughout Fromville start to show you that this pattern is directly linked to these dates, to these cycles, and that the other places we are finding in the forest, like the village, like the lighthouse, like Colony House even, all start to make sense once you start to compare them to the dates. And it starts to paint a picture and a story that can all be brought back down to one thing, where it all started. Let's go to the beginning. We were just confirmed through Victor and his memories that the boy in white told Christopher that the answers to the end are in the beginning. What happened to the children came first. This is clearly the beginning of it all, but I'm going to show you most likely why this was in 1506, starting with what the show has shown us. Number one, children born in caves with cave drawings that show the first settlers encountering the first tree and coming to Fromville. Children who have created a tree with 3 roots, that is the root of a faraway tree, and also expands into what we believe is a pocket dimension, a dreamscape, or a nightmare escape, or whatever you think it is, this dimension that they're in. What else is linked to the caves? The monsters that come out at night and hunt people in the town and sleep in the caves during the day. These monsters can be all of 3 things, and it doesn't matter according to the landscape theory. They can be dark fairies, forest fae, and the unseelie court. They can be wendigos, and they can be Norse mythological draugrs. What else is tied to this? The talismans that Boyd found in the forest, talismans that work only against these specific monsters. Where were these talismans found? In stone huts in the forest. How does this all relate to 1506? In 1506, basically the early 16th century, Norse settlers came to America and encountered the first Native Americans. This is directly mirroring the image that we see in the tunnels. These specific early 16th century Norse settlers were pre the Catholic influence and still believed in the Norse and Celtic original mythology of the Yggdrasil and Odin. This might not only explain why there are no Bibles in Fromville, but it could also explain everything we're seeing around the imagery, specifically with the children. The Yggdrasil itself was a tree with 3 roots. Now, when it comes to the monsters, I previously thought that they were still wendigos because there's a lot, and I mean a lot of crossover between wendigos, draugr, which are in Norse mythology, dark fae, and the unseelie court, which is in Celtic mythology, and just night creatures that come out at night and hunt humans in general that are undead across quite a few different ancient cultures. But now that I'm starting to get into more of the details of this show, it is only more clear now that these monsters are most likely a Norse and Celtic type of monster, although I'm not ready to say that they're specifically draugr or slaw or dark fairies yet, because none of the traits we've seen so far from the monsters actually confirm any of the 3 specifically, because none of the differences between the 3 have been apparent yet in the show. But for the sake of my landmark theory, the mythology, no matter which of the 3 that they are, they still fall under Norse and Celtic mythology, which falls under 1506 and the settlers of 1506. These monsters are only being affected by the talismans. What is on the talismans? Most likely, which I believe, these talismans are depicting the Norse and Celtic symbols for protection that used to be depicted on runes and or talismans. And the same thing can apply to dark forest fairies and fae. These talismans are found in stone huts, which are directly linked to a couple different cultures that were active in early America, but can specifically also be linked to Europeans creating these cairns. So no matter which one you believe in, whether we're dealing with dark forest fae and fairies in Celtic mythology, whether we're dealing with specifically Norse mythology, draugrs, protection spells and symbols, talismans, and their folklore of the Yggdrasil and Odin, any of those theories fall into the fact that the children were sacrificed in 1506 by the first people to come to Fromville, that were the first people currently in America at the time. It's all connected and it all starts in 1506. Now let's talk about 1609. What have we seen in the show? We've seen winter. We've seen visions of pilgrims, specifically one young pilgrim girl who was alive at some point in the town of Fromville, and one older pilgrim drinking from a skull of blood. We see the village itself. We see that there's a monster in this village that has yet to be identified. How does this connect to 1609? In a previous video, I referenced directly the starving times of Jamestown, which was an early settlement of settlers who came to America with a more developed idea of what they were coming to America to do. Pilgrims that came to America and started a settlement, and unfortunately that settlement failed. And by the winter of 1609, it had gotten so bad that the starvation time led to the pilgrims resorting to cannibalism. However, this was something that was happening across America throughout these years in that time frame of America. So for the show to depict pilgrims that are practicing cannibalism during winter could actually just be a little bit more vague than specifically being the Jamestown starvation times. However, I believe it is loosely based at minimum on this specific incident. And then now we are seeing a monster that has yet to be identified that is different than the monsters in the town, that also has its own wards, aka talismans, to protect people from it. 1864. What have we seen in the show? Jade's visions of Civil War soldiers, Eloise's drawings of Civil War soldiers that we know were stories Miranda told her, Miranda's paintings of Civil War soldiers, and her visions. We also have Colony House. We also have a railway, items that come from the 1864 Civil War era of America. Civil War soldiers is pretty straightforward. There's Civil War soldiers in the Civil War. Colony House, however, is an exact replica of the houses in the Confederacy, especially in the South. So now the question becomes, what monster is linked to the 1864? Also, why is 1864 the only number in the faraway tree? Now, because I only want my theories to be based off of things that are being directly referenced in the show and proven through the imagery we are actually seeing, I know for a fact that there are some dates in the Lighthouse that we have not been shown yet the things that tie directly to them. And there are some things we have seen in the show that we don't know enough about yet to tie them to the other dates in the Lighthouse. So this is where I'm going to stick to the dates I know that I have. I'm going to wait for the show to show us more about what we are seeing, but I'm also going to open it up to you guys in the comments now that you understand the pattern I am building in my landscape theory. Let me know in the comments what you think could apply to these specific dates. 1672, 1711, 1752, 1883, and 1931. Now, again, I've seen all the other theories on what all of the dates mean. However, I don't personally believe that some of the dates, the ones that I'm missing, when I compare them to these other theories on what those dates could be, make sense and are very sound. I think a lot of those theories start to have a lot of holes in them, especially when you really pay attention to what is happening in the show. 3 things that do still fall under my theory that still start to make sense, but I don't have enough to sit here and tell you in detail which date, what it all means, where the folklore specifically comes from. Number 1, the music box monster, the cicadas, and the Martin storyline. Because of the ruins and because of the monster not being fully fleshed out yet, I don't know specifically where that mythology and folklore comes from, so I cannot easily pin down which one of these dates that monster is directly linked to. But because it's directly linked to the ruins, it still falls under my landmarks theory and probably accounts for one of the dates I do not have. Number 2, the Quaker church, the stone church in the town, and the monster that we have not encountered yet or have fully fleshed out yet that is in the church cemetery. Now, I believe, if I had to guess, The Quaker church in town, the Stone Church, is directly linked to the 1672 storyline, which could potentially be directly linked to the Dutch War, the Declaration of Indulgence, and the Quakers, the early Quakers that came to America, and potentially through that storyline, the Salem witch trials. Still falls under my landmark theory because the date, the building, and now the monster in that building. I'm just not ready to say that it hard yes is 1672. The third thing I believe still falls under my theory again is the Japanese ghost monster, the Abume, the 1931 in the Lighthouse, and Hawaii and all the Hawaii signs we're seeing throughout the show. In 1931, Hawaii and Japan had a lot of tension because there was a lot of Japanese settlement happening in Hawaii, which is linked to America. Hawaii had a lot of things going on in this era between their own personal civil rights era, their own version of an Emmett Till that happened in this year, as well as the Manchurian incident that was between Japan and China that led to what is believed to be the initial incident that led to World War II. All of this is tied to 1931, which I believe ties the Japanese Abume ghost to Fromville through 1931 and potentially the Hawaii sign. That's why I don't quite want to double down on that one and say that's exactly what is happening in the show. However, again, it's another version of something being really close to my landmark theory that just hasn't had a fully fleshed out storyline yet. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think so far and let's finish this theory. And now for a full circle moment in this video, just like in the show. A full circle, everything's connected the end to the beginning. 1978 in the Lighthouse. What have we seen in the show? Literally everything related to the town. The people in the town itself, the motel, the diner, the houses, the cars, Victor himself, all goes to 1978. And the monster, I believe, could be the monster linked to the 1978 cycle is the monster that is talking through the phones and the radio and using different appliances to mess with people in the town, including Jim's radio, the phones, and the music in the diner. However, I believe one of the most important details I've caught that I believe everyone missed that then solidifies this theory. If you go back into all of Victor's visions when he was younger, when the 1978 cycle was still happening, everything in the town is new. The cellar still has brand new painted doors. The play gym is brand new and still bright in all of its colors. All of the houses are new. The motel still has its sign. All of the cars are new. This was one of the biggest details that I believe that everyone missed, including myself the first time, that proves this theory true. Because now this means that the town itself is the landmark that was created for the 1978 cycle by Fromville, which then proves that every building in the town directly related to every other date within the Lighthouse and every other date in the cycle was created for that date in the cycle when that cycle was brand new. All the other monsters linked to all the other dates and all the other landmarks in Fromville are still active, and they are active once you go and you activate them. And now this brings us to the biggest question in the show, the Lighthouse. Now, the Lighthouse could also fall into one of the other dates I have not discovered. However, I think it's interesting that when you look at Miranda's map, the Lighthouse falls next to 1506. If you know about the history of lighthouses, there should be no lighthouses in America in 1506. So that's when the time travel theory started to make all of this make way more sense. Because if the lighthouse was actually already in the town when the initial people in 1506, the Norse settlers, got here, that would have been the actual first sign that Fromville existed outside of time and had some sort of form of time travel and didn't apply to the actual rules of time. because lighthouses did not exist in America in 1506. They didn't really come to America until after the 1600s, if not even later, closer to the 1700s. So by that theory, the lighthouse was connected to a cycle that hadn't even happened yet, but was here already when the people got here in 1506. So let that sink in just a little bit, because that's a hard one to wrap your head around. It's hard for me to wrap my head around too. But this could be why the lighthouse was integral to Tabitha escaping from initially. Could explain how the lighthouse is this dimensional rift that Jade mentions in his theory, and could tie together even more details in this show. But that is all I have for you up until this point for what I call the landmark theory, that every number in the lighthouse is still a date, and every date refers to some sort of landmark we see in Fromville. And every landmark related to these dates that we see in Fromville, each separately come with their own strong entity that is playing its own game within Fromville. And every one of these entities could be a smaller entity that are all a part of some bigger dark force at play, which I believe is the original force that goes all the way back to the children and why the children were sacrificed to begin with. I believe where Fromville was always a magical pocket dimension that the children were sacrificed to some deity that controlled this place. And now we are seeing them play chess within this pocket dimension, dreamscape, nightmare escape, or whatever you believe this place is. That's it for this video. I hope I explained it well. That's why I was talking kind of slow this time, trying to really get my thoughts out. It took me a long time to film this video because I was trying to figure out the best way to say a lot of these things and how to finish this video, and wanting to wait out the fact that I didn't quite have every single date pinned down, but I've come to the conclusion that I probably won't ever have all of these dates pinned down if they decide to show what these other dates actually even mean by the time the show is over. But I wanted to get it out because enough people were asking me about it, and I hope that I did not disappoint. I hope that you guys liked this video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Tell me also what you guys think about the dates I do not have, what you think they could be related to in the show that you might have caught that I haven't. Again, I could be wrong about all of this, but I believe that this idea of everything in the town being there on purpose and being directly tied to the dates of the cycles, and although unfinished, is the strongest theory on the dates compared to anything else I've seen on YouTube. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.